Buenos días, buenas tardes, y buenas noches. Bonjour, bonsoir, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you may be. Jay Slater case. It is April 27th, 1 week remaining in the Jay Slater petition signing window. It is back to that ITV interview from last week sometime. And the reason I want to focus on it, obviously, statement of the obvious, the person peering over my shoulder today would be Debbie Duncan. And I do want to focus on a part of that whole ITV presentation that I think possibly 90 odd percent of you out there never got to hear. I certainly didn't get to hear it. So it's a big, big thank you to one of my top contributors that keeps an eye out and an ear out for this kind of thing, because it's an ear out that is important here. Because only this morning did I get to hear the full audio of that interview and presentation, because the YouTube clip that ITV put out there, and this is a big question mark next to ITV, the YouTube clip that they put out there is devoid. They've completely cut off from the first section, which features the 5 comments that are supposed to be so horrendous and so abusive, on which Debbie then comments. So, from day one, I was like, oh, that's curious that they have these comments that they've obviously mentioned, but they don't appear in the YouTube clip. Why is that? Why did ITV decide to remove the 5, offending comments? So my suspicious hackles were raised in the sense that what awful things could have been said that led them to ask Debbie to comment on those comments. Well, as I say, I found out this morning. So in the preamble to this interview with Debbie Duncan, the ITV presenters there say that false conspiracy theories flooded the internet. I'll repeat that because it is a bit of an eyebrow raiser, that. False conspiracy theories flooded the internet. Now, we've all gone through this, but so many of those conspiracies came from either Debbie Duncan herself, the Duncan Slater family, every single one of them, whether it be Uncle Glenn, Warren, Debbie herself, every single one of them said that they did not believe Jay was up in that mountain area, that he had been taken. So if that's a false conspiracy theory, then why is it that trolls, so-called trolls, are being targeted when the very same false conspiracies were aired by the family? This is what we don't get, and this is a subject that is never addressed, and it needs to be. If in the fullness of time, following the discovery of Jay's body, apparently, we are then supposed to take the false conspiracy as being false, well, so be it. But I don't think there is a national law that says once a body is found, no one can talk about conspiracy theories. To me, freedom of speech is that freedom to say, despite this body being found, we still think this is not an accidental death. To me, that is a fundamental right. So, in other words, when does a perfectly allowable conspiracy theory, like Debbie saying, I believe he's been taken by someone, when does that become a false conspiracy theory? At what point? I was just guessing that it's at the point the body is found. But when you think about it, the discovery of the body doesn't negate the whole conspiracy theory that Jay could have been taken. Surely not. Because as the pathologist said, I can't rule out a push. So if the pathologist can't rule out a push, he can't rule out that Jay could have been taken, led to a high point in a ravine and pushed. So logically, going by the pathologist's words, the discovery of the body still doesn't rule out the validity of a conspiracy theory that Jay was taken. So again, I raise the question for those that are so keen to promote Jay's law, you've got to be specific here. At what point does a conspiracy theory become evidentially false? If we're going by the words of a coroner's verdict, then what that means is the opinion of one person, and it is the opinion of one person. The coroner is one person who, in the J. Slater case, dismissed his own pathologist and said, no, you're wrong. It can't have been a push. I'm ruling that it must have been an accident. Is it at that point that we all have to bow down and say, the coroner, oh God Almighty, this same coroner that couldn't even get 5 witnesses into his court, he must be obeyed? Because again, free speech is the right to say, I disagree with that verdict. I disagree with that verdict, and I don't actually have to give any evidence. I have the freedom to say, I disagree with that verdict. I think he got it wrong. Just as we have the freedom to say any judge in the country got it wrong. And lo and behold, there are a number of judicial decisions and coronial decisions that are either doubtful or in some cases get reversed. In a coronial decision or a judge's decision that gets reversed, do those who apparently were pronouncing, these conspiracy theories, do they get some kind of compensation? Do we all get, I don't know, 10 quid a day for being wrongly accused of being conspirators if it turns out that it was true? What is the recompense system involved here? I'm curious. But I'll repeat the question one more time because it's not clear under Jay's law proposals. And presumably the likes of Kaz Alice, more on her later, but presumably the likes of Kaz Alice that are such a proponent of Jay's law have thought this through. And what is their conclusion? That a so-called false conspiracy theory must be silenced at the moment, complete the sentence. This is the homework assignment for the accident group. The false conspiracy theories must be silenced at the moment that at the moment that the coroner issues his verdict, at the moment a body is discovered, at the moment Debbie Duncan says so. Because all of the Duncan Slater family were conspiracy theorists initially. It seems to me Jay's law basically says at the moment that one of the family members of a victim decides theories have become conspiracy theories, then those conspiracy theorists must be, through social media platforms, shut down. That's what it seems to me. Now, if anyone in the accident group can issue clarification on the precise moment an accepted conspiracy theory becomes a false conspiracy theory, you tell me. Because this is the key point. If you can't tell me that moment, you can't ever hope for Jay's law to become law. It has to be worded correctly, specifically. And if you can't word it correctly and specifically, there is no way in hell those that don't completely grasp the situation can ever do it. But let's get back to these such horrendous comments that ITV decided to air them. You know what? You'd better hold on tight to your seat, accident group, because you're going to be so shocked by these 5 comments that ITV aired before the Debbie Duncan interview. You might not get through this Monday in good shape. So once you're sat down, accident group, once you're holding on tight to your chairs, I will go through the 5 comments, these horrendous tragedy, trolling, false conspiracy comments that were put out there that so devastated Debbie and ITV that they aired them. What a brave move. They aired them and let the world be shocked. Here it is. Comment number 1. Is anyone else getting Shannon Matthews vibes? This is one commenter, back knows I don't know when. Is anyone else getting Shannon Matthews vibes? Remember Shannon Matthews? Actually, I've forgotten. Was Shannon the little girl or Shannon was the mother? The little girl disappeared and the mother was, hand wringing and where's my baby gone? Where's my baby gone? Just want my baby back. And all along, The mother knew exactly where the little kid was, in a relative's home, I think. Um, I think that's a perfectly valid question. Is anyone else getting Shannon Matthews vibes? Now, I'll answer that question. Yes and no. I didn't ever get the Shannon Matthews vibes that Debbie Duncan knew exactly what had happened to Jay, and it was a Debbie Duncan plot just to get some sympathy money, if you like. I never thought that. I mean, to me, if some people did think that, that's fine. We have free speech. You can air that view and it can be disproved. But I never thought that. But yes, in the sense I did get Shannon Matthews vibes, in the sense that I never thought Debbie Duncan was being wholly cooperative about being transparent, open, and honest about what Jay was doing in Tenerife and what might have happened to him. In that sense, yeah, I got some low level Shannon Matthews vibes. So there's shocker comment number one that ITV felt had to be aired out there as a prime example of how horrible and how abusive these tragedy trolls are. Comment number two came from someone that said, he owes too much money to too many people. He owes too much money to too many people. This, apparently is an abusive and shocking comment. Well, I would think there's a good chance that Jay owed too much money to too many people. I would agree with that. It could well be true. I'm not saying it's definitely true, but those failed card payments and all the other chatter in the background about losing the substances and Lucy having gone through this before. And yeah, I don't see anything wrong with the comment, he owes too much money to too many people. Now, this could be disproven to a certain extent if Debbie were to be transparent and say, here's Jay's bank account activity, or, this is what he did owe and he paid it off. Fine. But just to make no comment on how 360 euros and then 180 euros in failed payments on a Sunday night to a real estate company happened, just to ignore all that, makes me think that this commenter, he owes too much money to too many people, may have nailed it. So in my book, instead of airing that comment as an example of how horrific some people are commenting, I would have aired that comment as something that Debbie really should address. Comment number three that was so abusive, shocking, and horrible. I believe he's been kidnapped by the Moroccan mafia. Someone said, I believe he's been kidnapped by the Moroccan mafia. That is one of those horrendous false conspiracy theories that flooded the internet. Well, if we take out the two words Moroccan mafia, or if we take out the four words by the Moroccan mafia, count them. Debbie Duncan, Warren Slater, Uncle Glenn Duncan, and many more in the family and friends, all said the same thing. They all said, I believe he's been kidnapped. I believe he's been taken somewhere. I believe someone took him. It seems like the horror of comment number three are the words by the Moroccan mafia. Maybe if you put the mafia, maybe if you put the drug cartels, maybe if you put the big cheese in there, maybe if you put, I don't know, British, Irish mafia, maybe if you put the Mexicans, maybe it's just the word Moroccan that is so offensive. I don't know. But something in the comment, I believe he's been kidnapped by the Moroccan mafia, was put in the top five. Remember, these are the top five shocker, trolling, false conspiracy comments that have to be shut down under JSON. They're so awful that ITV aired them to let us know how awful these are. There it is. I believe he's been kidnapped by the Moroccan mafia. Horror, false conspiracy theory put out there. At that point, I was just waiting for Debbie during the interview to say, yeah, that number three is a shocker. How dare you? How dare you accuse anyone Moroccan of taking Jay? If you're going to accuse anyone of taking Jay, just leave it blank. Say someone. But Moroccan, whew, oh, that needs to be shut down. That needs to be removed. That needs to be banned under Jay's law, apparently, the word Moroccan. Comment number four, the family are just getting greedy now. Well, yeah. That one, I can see why someone would say the family are just getting greedy now. Is it now? to be removed from social media platforms, you accuse someone of being greedy? A grieving family, greedy. I mean, again, it's all unanswered. How much was received for the documentary? How much was received for all the exclusive interviews? How much money from the GoFundMe has been cashed and used? I mean, from the outside, without transparency, it would look to a lot of people as being greedy. What are you going to do? Ban people from thinking that it looks like someone's being greedy? How do you do that? You can't ban their thought process. And I would submit you can't ban them from expressing that view somehow. There will always be a social media platform that allows people to say the family are just getting greedy now. And they should allow it. And shocking comment number 5 from the preamble to Debbie Duncan's interview. Number 5, we don't even know if it's his body. Now, this one might seem the most controversial. But again, I would say everyone in the world has a right to say when a body has been found, when a body has had an autopsy, when a coroner has delivered a verdict, that we still have the right to say we don't even know it is his body. Because the truth is, we, whoever we is, let's say in my case it's I, Duncan Smith, I don't know that it's his body. I've never seen any paperwork that states it's Jay Slater's body. All I know is the incredibly inept coroner that failed to get any of the 5 key witnesses in his courtroom, even though he, via Debbie Duncan, had all their telephone numbers and all their email addresses. Could have got them there. You and I would have got those 5 people there, or we would have got a definitive statement from Debbie explaining why they're not coming. But a coroner that's so inept he couldn't even do that is telling us we have to know that that is Jay's body. We don't. You see, this is where the trust system falls out. We don't trust you, Adderley. We don't trust you. And I certainly wouldn't trust that morgue in Santa Cruz de Tenerife with all of the mayhem that was going on there, with the staff walking out and complaining about overwork and the shoddy conditions there. No, I think I do have a right to say I don't trust those people. And until I see something in writing, I certainly don't trust everyone saying, oh, it's him, it must be him. When you get the Spanish press saying DNA evidence will be obtained to confirm the identity, and then we hear nothing more about it, but we also hear some of his vital organs were kept back, we never heard if they were repatriated, there's always going to be doubts. And people should be free to express those doubts. So I don't actually happen to agree with comment number 5. We don't even know if it's his body. I don't agree with the insinuation that it's not his body, but I absolutely agree that number 5 should be allowed to be aired. And I don't think, for those that know the case, it is that shocking to state that. But those were the 5 worst, most abusive and shocking comments that ITV could find. And then focus on the answer to the question, because Debbie Duncan's first question from the ITV presenters was, how do you feel about these comments? She was asked, Debbie was asked, how do you feel about these comments? Listen to her answer, because her answer answers the question, how long have these comments been coming? Debbie's answer is, well, it's just never ending. They just keep coming. They go round in circles. They blah, 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 blah. At no point does Debbie ever answer the question, how do you feel about these comments? All she can answer is, well, they keep flowing in. Now, Debbie does this a lot. She answers a lot of questions with a response that doesn't tackle the question. And she is never, ever pulled up on it. Ever. And this is why she chooses who she sits with and talks to, because she knows at the point she's saying, well, it just never ends, that not one of those 2 people on the couch is going to say, we get that it's a never-ending horror for you, but just tell us how you feel about those 5 comments that came in. We never get that question. We never get to specifics. We never get to the facts. We never get to what Debbie actually has to say about these comments. And that tells you a lot. When Debbie does comment, she starts talking about accusations that she and the family were involved in drug dealing. That was not one of the comments that ITV found and exposed. So, quite where Debbie starts dipping into the accusations about she's a drug dealer and a family of drug dealers, I don't know. I would say, well, if that's one of the most awful accusations you've got, why didn't ITV choose to air that as one of their top five most horrific troll comments? We go back to the question of, unless Debbie shows us that comment and where it came from, we tend to think she might be creating some of these in her head. Because presumably ITV did their due diligence, they selected five shocking comments. You'd have thought if they'd found something about the accusation of Debbie and drug dealing, they would have put that in the list. They didn't. So how many of these most shocking troll, tragedy troll comments is Debbie getting that no one else has seen or heard about? They just come from her mouth. We don't see the words. This is very disturbing. All right, a lot more to come on this interview in the background to it, because this is a pivotal moment. The comments are still flowing in. The comments are still largely very scathing and questioning of Debbie's performance in this interview. I think it was very, very poor. And I think a lot of people, we saw a lot of new names crop up, a lot of new people are now latching onto the fact that these aren't real interviews. These are propaganda pieces, and it doesn't work. Like I say, Jay's Law petition closes May 4th. Then we have a vacuum. What will be the subject in the Jay Slater case after the petition has failed? All right. Let's leave it there. Hasta luego, hasta la vista, hasta más tarde, and adios.